I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by John Hathaway, a fantastic British martial artist, and you're competing at Oktagon MMA 44 in Oberhausen, Germany on June 17th. But before we get into this massive fight that you've got coming up, I want to delve a little bit deeper into your backstory because it's incredible. It's one of just sheer resilience and never giving up. Could you tell me about the battle that you've had with Crohn's disease and losing your large intestine?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, it was something that I kind of creeped up when I was fighting for the UFC and stuff. I think I'd had 3 or 4 fights in UFC, and then it kind of hit me before it was meant to be a fight in London against Matt Brown. I kind of again we kind of I kind of trained through as much as I could with it. I didn't know what it was at the time, and then obviously like end up being like, oh, I'll pop to hospital. I'll just see what this is, kind of thing. Get some blood work done, and then just got kept at the hospital for like I think a week and a bit. It was while they kind of did more tests on me, figured out what was wrong, and then started me on medication to basically kind of get it under control. And then from there, it was just I guess up and down kind of through the career. I kind of like carried on fighting with it. I think I had another 4 or 5 fights with ulcerative colitis, and again, I ended up having to pull out of I think 2 more fights, and it kind of obviously it's that hard thing of when you're building in a camp and you're getting towards the end of the camp and kind of like it's peak kind of like stress and stress levels on your body as well is what would always kind of like trigger that flare up. So I took some time out, end up having it was like 8 or 9 years out, kind of trying to get it under control with different medications and basically going through every protocol what they kind of gave me, and then eventually just had to go for surgery and lost my large bowel anyway. So, but obviously that kind of enabled me to kind of kick back into training and kind of get back to normal. Obviously, I was training throughout that time anyway, but I could just never, I guess, push it as high as I needed to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. You've had an amazing journey, and to have so long a period outside of the cage must have been
Right.
incredibly difficult. Could you tell me about what those moments were like, where you're at and you weren't able to pursue your dream, and how you were able to keep going? Because many fighters would have given up.
I must say, I mean, like I got into obviously teaching. I always like to kind of show stuff to the guys anyway, but I started getting into teaching and kind of teaching in local gyms before running my own gym. But I mean, definitely for the first couple years, maybe. I mean, obviously, it's so hard because it's been so long that it kind of goes almost goes just into distant memory kind of thing. But definitely for the first like year or two, I couldn't really watch MMA as much as I was teaching it. Like it was hard, and then obviously like there's still great fights happening. So kind of again, I love the sport so much that it kind of drew me back in after like getting over that initial like kicking my feet a little bit and stuff like that, being unhappy not being able to compete in what I wanted to do. But and then just got back into watching it more. And again, every discipline, even just MMA as a whole, is amazing. But every discipline in there is just fantastic to watch as its own thing. Obviously there's always American wrestling and Olympic wrestling kind of happening. ADCC and other grappling sports have obviously kicked off now, like massive, and there's loads of them to watch. And there's always good boxing and some stand up fighting to watch in Glory and whatnot. So I mean, yeah, just combat sports as a general has got I got kind of yes the love for it, and I just enjoy watching it.
That's amazing. Do you have any fights in particular that you can remember watching and thinking, "Oh, I've got to get back in there"?
Uh, I guess not. I mean, there is just so many. Obviously, after I've kind of like stopped competing for the UFC, there's just so much young talent that's come through. Obviously, so many good British guys are fighting nowadays as well. Obviously, seeing Arnold Allen fighting as well is really great. Leon Edwards is just doing fantastic. Obviously, his first fight at Lisbon was fantastic. His second one, obviously, he got the win and stuff. But I mean, they've all so first one got the win, second one got the win as well. But like all of them just been amazing, kind of an inspirational to kind of get back in and keep wanting to do it.
Yeah. Can you remember the moment where you were told you're able to get back in the cage? You can get back to doing what you love?
I mean, that was more my choice. Most doctors were just like, "Yeah, you should probably just stop now." I mean, I was incredibly lucky when I managed to get my bowel surgery kind of done privately after waiting on the NHS for a little bit, and he was just one of those doctors. For life, I can't remember his name right now, but he was just one of those doctors where he could tell you the sky was black outside you or purple, you'd believe it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he was just so charismatic and so you could have so much faith in what he said. And I basically was like I needed surgery done because they're normally done I think over like a year and a half, 2 year period. I had my first child on the way as well. We were just like I need it done in like 8 months basically. I want to go back internal and basically get back to competing and getting into sports. And he was basically just like, yep, we can do that. Just one of the ones where just he was just confident and I had 100% faith in being able to do what he could do, which kind of has enabled me to have, I guess, faith in what I can do and getting back to what I want to do.
That's incredible. So you've gone through such an amazing journey. You've come out the other side. You're ready to carry on competing. You get this opportunity in Oktagon. You have your comeback fight. You pick up a big win. Could you tell me the range of emotions you were feeling going into that, before the fight, after the fight, and what it's like now to be a father as well?
I mean, yeah, it's great. Obviously, having a little one round. Obviously, it gets testing sometimes, especially in this last week where I'm just starting to bring back on my calorie count and stuff like that. But other than that, she's just over 4 now, so she's a little age already most of the time. I mean, for my first fight back, I was just so I guess focused on competing and getting the win that, like, I don't think anything was going to stop me, or any opponent was going to stop me kind of on that day. Obviously, since then it's just been good. It almost just feels like the 8-9 years out has just never happened. Do you know what I mean? Back in with the guys always up in London training and kind of going through the routines, what I was so used to for so many years, because I started competing. I think I had 2 pro fights before I was 19, so when I was still 18, and then just obviously competed up until, who knows what point I've been, like 34. So yeah, I mean, competed up until my late 20s, and then obviously had the time out and stuff. So I mean, it's just always what I've known really and what I've loved to do.
And now you have this opportunity to fight in a reserve bout in the Tip Spot Game Changer. What do we make of your opponent? Obviously, a champion in Babylon in his own right, so a very good fighter. So it should be a good test for you. And what would it mean to actually get into that tournament, to break into that bracket and have the opportunity to go for the €1,000,000?
I mean, it'll be fantastic. Obviously, that is the ideal end goal. Obviously, I got Lucas to kind of deal with first, or get out of the way, and then obviously with some luck and hope that I mean, someone else would have to drop out of the tournament so I can enter it. But other than that, I got to do it with Lucas first. He's obviously incredibly tough guy. Obviously, he fought in the first round of the tournament against Cosmo, who's probably one of the favorites for winning it, or a very tough duel. Personally, he gave him some trouble. Obviously, Cosmo clearly won all the like the majority of the rounds anyway. But obviously, Lucas in the third round almost got him in a rear naked. Had some good submission attempts. So he's kind of a dangerous fighter on the feet, and almost, I feel, even more dangerous on the ground with his submission work.
You mentioned Cosmo there, a fighter who is incredibly popular out in the Czech Republic. The Pink Panther, he's got the whole hairdo going on. Very sort of likable guy, and they make amazing noise for him. I imagine for you as a fighter, that's quite an alluring prospect to be able to go out to his home territory and fight somebody like him.
Most certainly. Again, like I rate him a lot. He's a super strong, durable fighter as well that can compete in every kind of aspect of MMA. His stand-up's nice, his ground's nice. So, and he's big and strong, and obviously he's just a nice guy and an enjoyable guy to watch fight. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other tough guys in the Game Changer. So we'll see how it kind of goes. We'll see. Hopefully, I can win this one and get into my spot and be able to take someone's place.
Absolutely. And assuming you bag the win here, there is a massive card coming up in November at the AL Manchester Arena, stage to the cage. It's going to be a big one. I imagine you've got your eyes set on that card.
Most certainly. Obviously, it's a hard one. I don't want to overlook next weekend, but yeah, 100%. I want to be on that one card. Ideally, just a quick turnaround, touch with no injuries from after this, and I can just get back straight in. Obviously, I've had so long out that I kind of want to just get as much out as I can in a short period as I can.
And the fan in me has got to ask you, back when you were competing in the UFC, picking up a victory over Diego Sanchez, a legend, they don't get much higher profile than him. The fans don't love many people more than him. So what was it like to share the cage with him and pick up a victory?
It was fantastic. Obviously, that's one of the highlights of him. And I still feel probably Rick's story was my toughest fight that I'd won. Obviously, I've had fights where I've lost, which you can argue were tougher than the ones I've won. But Rick's story was a general nightmare to fight, just being a southpaw and heavy wrestler. But for the Diego one, it was my first time in Vegas, first fight in Vegas, like kind of the mecca of where you compete against someone who, I'd watched getting into the sport with the first tough season and everything else. So it was just an incredible experience,
Most certainly. John, I'd like to thank you so much for talking to me today. It's deeply appreciated. I want to wish you all the luck in the world for your fight that's coming up. But before I let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or anything that you'd like to add that I perhaps haven't asked you about?
And particularly, obviously, the teams I train with, London Street Fighters and Temple Jiu-Jitsu, the guys who kind of like helped me get through this, which is Time for Nutrition, Track Nutrition, Scramble, and then for me, obviously, a big one is my wife is running the Scar Wand, which is a new company with a new device, and I think without that, basically, obviously having a hole in my stomach for over 8 months with the stoma site in and that getting closed up without kind of like having the scar work done on me, like I don't think I would have had the full capability to be able to kind of get back and be able to do what I want. Obviously, I've still got well, like not necessarily open holes, but like I had plenty of holes in my stomach from the surgeries, which has obviously left some pretty severe scar tissue. And I think without being kind of having that scar work done on me, and it's scar work you guys can all do at home with the stuff she's kind of putting out. So give her a follow up the Scar Wand, and yeah, I think it's what's got me back to where I am right now.